Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. From the right, I'm Gary Polland.
And from the left, I'm David Jones.
Tonight, we welcome the candidates for District Attorney in the Harris County Republican primary in 2012, whenever that will occur. First up is challenger, retired State District Judge Mike Anderson. And our other guest is the incumbent Harris County District Attorney and also a former District Judge, Pat Lykos. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
And so, since you're both Republicans, I get to ask, something here that's very unpleasant for you, I'm sure. Judge Lykos, you've got this Republican challenger. You've got some grand jury who's not happy with you. I mean, do you think there's any connection between what that grand jury is trying to do and you drawing an opponent in the Republican primary?
Now, David, I can't speculate.
You're not going to make the claim then?
Sir?
You're not going to make the claim that there's any connection between these two events?
As we speak, no.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, did you jump in this because Ms. Lykos has this little grand jury problem, or have you always wanted to be DA, or what?
This goes back to the time when Johnny Holmes announced his retirement back in 2000. And folks had tried to get me to run. At that point, I was in the middle of a 4-year term as judge, and I'd promised everybody I'd do it for 4 years, and I just felt like I'd be going back on my word. I told people if they voted for me, I'd give them 4 years of the hardest work I could do, and I couldn't just leave in the middle of it. And then when things happened with Mr. Rosenthal, and that all went the way it went, folks asked me at that point. And I couldn't, because I was in a position to where I had 2 years left before I could retire, and my family would be covered. If a bus fell on me the next day, my family would be covered medically. So it just wasn't the right time. I had been talked to by folks for quite some time about doing this. I think this just an accumulation of folks talking to me and a desire to be the DA.
Okay, and the sort of the what appears to be sort of coordinated efforts to attack Ms. Lykos by cops and by your announcement, it's certainly the case, and you're certainly free to do it, it's certainly the case that if it's not successful, you're smearing her and making it easy for Democrats to win in November, wouldn't you say?
No, I would not say that. I think the Republican Party I know wants to have the best team they can on the field in November or December, whenever the election may be. But I'm doing this because I want to be part of that team. I look back at what happened in 2008, and we were decimated. Every judge on that ballot but one lost. I sat there and watched it happen. I luckily was not on the ballot then. I was between running. And it was a bad thing. It was bad for the county. We're still suffering those consequences, and I don't want to go through it again.
Well, Judge Lykos, you ran in 2008, and you, along with, I think, the County Judge Emmett, were the two, along with Paul Betancourt, were the three successful countywide Republicans. We had a couple of judges.
No, Emmett didn't run in 2008.
Yes, he did.
He did? I thought he was on non-presidential years. Sorry.
He filled an unexpired term. I was the only non-incumbent to win countywide.
Okay, so
because of the platform that I ran on and the promises I made that I've kept.
Okay, well, let's talk about what promises did you make to the voters that you believe you've kept?
Well, when I was elected district attorney, the office was tarnished by scandal. It was distrusted by many members of our community. We had a budget shortfall from the old 08 budget of $5 million. The new budget I inherited from my predecessor, another $5 million deficit. So what we did is, number one, was to restore public trust and confidence in the office. We have extraordinary people in the office. We imposed fiscal restraints, if you will. There was a hiring freeze, and despite all of that, we came up with many initiatives and innovations that have protected and served the people of Harris County. You see, most folks know that we prosecute those who are guilty, and we do that vigorously. But it's also our role to protect the rights of an individual when they're accused, when they're prosecuted, post-conviction, and so forth. And we have won awards for honesty and integrity in prosecution. But over and above that, the district attorney's office is the foremost law enforcement agency in the county. We're the third largest county in the United States. Our population is greater than that of 24 states. We have over 1,800 square miles. We are the dynamo that drives Texas, if you will. And, of course, what drives Texas drives the nation.
Mike Anderson says, and he can certainly back this up, that one of your programs that you've initiated is this one where you allow people who have some amount of cocaine, which, as you know, is a felony, to just get a little traffic ticket. My question to you is, why should we be happy about that program when we've got kids with mere grams of marijuana who are doing jail time? You don't get the benefits of Pat Lykos's generosity.
Well, first of all, the issue of trace was brought to my attention. I met with all of our prosecutors when I took office, and they said, this is ridiculous. We can't make these cases. And so we did all of the research and discovered that the minimum amount that can be tested twice is 1/100th of a gram. That's 1/100th of this. This is a due process issue. It's an issue of integrity in prosecution. So we did the research, and in Bexar County, San Antonio is the largest city there, their threshold is 1/100th of a gram. In Travis County, Austin, it's 1/100th of a gram. And in Tarrant County, Fort Worth, it's double that, 2/100ths of a gram. And from that, all these benefits have flowed. Do you know that it takes an officer 2 to 3 hours to arrest and book an individual? Do you want somebody off the street, an officer off the street, for 2 to 3 hours booking?
Same amount of time for marijuana. And yet those people, you know, the time is taken up. They go to jail. 18-year-olds get criminal convictions. And there's no help anywhere. You've come to the help for the cocaine users. Why not the marijuana guys?
David, when I'm telling you it's a due process issue, I'm not ignoring the law. If it can't be tested twice, it's wrong to prosecute.
Okay. Well, Judge Anderson, you're being supported by a number of police groups, and one of the concerns the police groups said is they don't like the policy of the DA's office when it comes to trace amounts of cocaine. So where are you on this?
Well, first of all, it's against the law. It is against the law. And I've not talked to any police officer that said that they minded arresting somebody or taking the 2 hours that it took to arrest somebody. But that's really not their main concern. I've met with different groups of police officers to find out just what this is all about. Where are you coming from on this? And it's the burglaries, it's the aggravated robberies, it's cases that won't get taken at intake. And I've talked to different officers, different agencies, just to find out where they were coming from. Now they are upset about the small amount of cocaine cases, but that's a part of their concern.
When that policy was adopted, my understanding is that the district attorney's office made a presentation to the district judges' committees that deal with criminal justice in the county that you were a member of. And my understanding is you didn't have anything to say about it when it was adopted. So are you taking a new position because you're now running for DA, or you've changed your mind since that occurred, or none of the above, and there's another answer?
None of the above.
Okay.
It's against the law.
Okay, but why did you not speak out when you were on the committee?
You were presiding judge, as I recall.
Correct.
So if you and your colleagues had decided you didn't want this to happen, couldn't you have derailed this through the various committees you all operate under?
I continued to have these cases come through my court. They continued to be prosecuted. All right? The ones that were presented were prosecuted.
I understand that. But could you not have spoken out when it was presented? And if you change your mind, that's certainly okay. I mean, we change your mind all the time.
No, I have not changed.
But you didn't speak out when you were on the committee and tried to stop it.
It is against the law.
I understand
it is to be prosecuted, and you'll have to refresh my memory about this committee that you're talking about.
Do you have any problems with the other program that Judge Lykos takes credit for? You do take credit for the Divert program, which is a DWI program, and keeps people.
Our juvenile diversion program. We have done so much to prevent crime here in Harris County. But to refresh Judge Anderson's recollection, I made a presentation to the Criminal Justice Council of Harris County. And he was present. He was representing the district courts. In fact, he was on the jail population committee at the time. The sheriff was there. The constables were there. David, I want the people of Harris County to understand that we made presentations to the command staff of the Houston Police Department, to the sheriff's office, and to this council, and to other organizations before we implemented this, all right? There were no objections. The only thing that HPD asked is that we do a 6-month trial and then determine the effectiveness of it. We did that. I've got the stats here. The crime rate is down. The best crime prevention tool is to have officers on the street. I want them to go after the drug dealer who sold the drugs, the person who supplied the person who sold the drugs, and all the way up that chain.
I like the program.
But let me respond to that. Sure. This was a presentation to present information. There was not a vote taken. It was not a place to argue or one way or another. It was a presentation. So that's what we did. We listened to the presentation.
There's a judge in Harris County, Judge Bill Harmon, who thinks that the program that Judge Lykos has that diverts people charged with the most dangerous misdemeanor in the penal code at DWI from prosecution, gets their case dismissed. You have any problems with that program?
I do. I don't understand why pretrial diversion can't be used. It is legal. And I think Judge Harmon will show you there are statistics that show for every person that gets divert, the district attorney's office gets a $150 fee.
Oh, so it's a moneymaker, Judge Lykos. For you, is that?
Well,
congratulations. You're a free market DA.
Well, up to the point of over $600,000 so far.
User fees.
Well, I don't know what they're called exactly, but
my comment, obviously I'm a lawyer. I work with clients. I've had clients who've been accepted in the divert program. I've had clients that have been rejected in the divert program based on the standards.
Correct.
And my experience has been for those who actually went through the program and took advantage of all that, I think the odds of them becoming a drunk driver again go way down, which is, of course, as someone driving on the roads, a goal of mine. That's my experience.
Well, I think you'll find there's a pamphlet somewhere that Mr. Leitner had at a function that we
Who is he now?
No, the first assistant district attorney.
He's the first assistant at the district attorney attorney's office. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
David, still slow on that.
And in it will show that somewhere in the neighborhood of 425 people were successful, 200 and something were unsuccessful in 2010. We've got the highest yearly, one of the highest death rates from DWI in the country. It's a bad deal. People are dying. Young people, old people are dying because people are getting behind the wheel after they've been drinking. The best chance any of us has of dying by violent means is by someone who has had too much to drink, gets behind the wheel of their car, and comes into our lives and ends it.
Not driving while high on marijuana, but driving while drunk.
No, it can be high on marijuana too, Dave.
Excuse me.
Tell me what those numbers are.
David,
I
want to address this issue. We are the epicenter for driving while intoxicated. And what was happening is that people were copying a plea for time served, a minimum fine, lose their license, and the next thing you know, they're a repeat offender. We created this divert program in the interest of public safety. Of those 4,000 who have completed the program, only less than 1% are recidivists. People need to understand that they undergo a risk assessment. They're placed under supervision for a year to 18 months. They have to have an interlock in their car. It has a camera in it. They have to undergo the treatment and so forth. And once they're successful, the fees that we collect go to help those who can't afford the treatment, can't afford to put the interlock in there, so that this is a very, very fair program, if you will. Now, in other jurisdictions, you know what they do? They have people go on a program ahead of time, the treatment and so forth, and then when they complete it, and we're talking about metropolitan jurisdictions, then they go ahead and they reduce it to obstructing traffic. I prefer what we do. We have a court opinion, a judge saying that this indeed is a pretrial diversion. All of the misdemeanor judges, save one, are fully supportive of this program. With respect to our trace policy, we had 15 of our judges write letters in favor of our trace policy. What we're doing is working smart. Crime is down, and it's due to the fact that we've worked with all the law enforcement agencies, and we have the force multiplier, if you will. And let me tell you
I know something that both of you agree on.
What's that?
Well, can I just say one thing? The thing about the 15 judges that wrote a letter, they were trying to change the law. They were petitioning the legislature to change the law.
If I'm not mistaken, the legislature did change the law, and then Governor Perry vetoed it, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, but the law's not changed.
That's correct.
Correct? Okay. And so, and that's just the law. And it's simply the fact that as a district attorney in the executive branch, you enforce the law. The legislature makes the law, you enforce it. We learned that back in 5th grade.
And what you're
and it
saying is
still
the
applies.
legislature says you can't get deferred adjudication for DWI, and yet they're giving it, in effect, calling it something else. Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I was saying, Dave, but that's true as well, but that's not what I was saying. But the bottom line is a very well-respected defense attorney that y'all know. He tries cases. He's very well-respected in the appellate area. I asked him. I said, well, what do you think about divert? He said, it's illegal, but we love it. He said, if it goes up, he goes, and every defense lawyer has a duty, if you've got something like that, for your client to use it.
You brag about the death penalty, and your having been a prosecutor and having won
I
some of
brag
those
about
cases.
the death penalty.
In your material that you submit to the public, you say that you were a prosecutor where the death penalty was sought and won, and I assume that you are a supporter of it. I'm asking you whether or not you agree.
I don't agree that I bragged about the death penalty. I do agree that I was involved in trying or investigating and getting ready for trial 11 capital murder cases.
And you put it in your material, is all
Correct.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so North Carolina, they have a law. They were a former state in the old Confederacy, just like Texas. They have a law that says, and I'm going to ask you if you both support it, they have a law that says if you can, after conviction, if you're on death row and you're a black person, you can prove by statistical evidence or otherwise, if you can prove that that race was a factor in either the seeking or the giving of the death penalty, you can get a new hearing and perhaps a new sentencing. That's what North Carolina has as the law. Do you like that law for Texas?
I can assure you that under my administration, when I make the decision, and it is gut-wrenching to make the decision as to whether to seek death or not, I do not know the race of the individual. And absolutely, if you can prove that race is a factor in making that decision and so forth, that can be raised as an appellate issue. But under my administration, that will never exist. But there have been several canards hurled towards me in this interview, and I'd like to correct the record. What we are doing is perfectly lawful. The jurisdictions that I cited to you, 2 of them are the strongest law and order Republicans. Are they out there breaking the law? What we're doing actually, David, is obeying the law. Due process. We do not.
You're talking about that other subject.
We do not need to go back to the old days.
Well,
all
the old days, Judge Lykos, that I'm asking about, from Chuck Rosenthal through you, and you may not know what the race is, but the picture was in the paper. All black people get the death penalty since you and Rosenthal have been DAs.
That is absolutely
12 out of 13.
That
so
is incorrect.
Statistically, you would be saying, if you support that law, that any of those people should be able to go back and say,
David,
hey, I need a new hearing because race was a factor.
I want you to look at the victims. Are you saying that black victims don't count? Because there are black victims in a vast majority of those cases.
Do you support this law that North Carolina has for Texas?
David, not to mischaracterize my feelings for you because we're friends, but I'm not really sure with your characterization of the law. I'd like to read it before I say I'm for it, but I'll just say this.
Yeah.
I'll say this.
Well,
Go ahead. He's about to say
let me
something.
say this. If you stand before a jury and you have asked them to follow the law and the evidence is there and you present it as a prosecutor and you ask them to answer these questions so that you know it's going to result in this man's life being taken. First of all, it's nothing that you do an end zone dance about. It's a solemn thing. You're taking someone's life. But before death is sought or ever was sought in the cases that I dealt with, there's a tremendous amount of research into this person's prior conviction record, the people that were touched by him, and before death was sought in any of the cases that I ever dealt with, there's a tremendous amount of damage to our society that this person was personally responsible for.
She mentioned, or one of you mentioned Jim Leitner?
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. So I'm just saying, so what you're saying is race has nothing to do with it.
Race has nothing
For
to
either
do
of you.
and,
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it you know what?
I wanted to ask about something I read in your website, Judge, and that you talked about helping create a public defender's office in Harris County, which is
Right.
for our viewers.
Which you were against.
That's correct.
Right.
Government-run public defender's office. The plan, Harris County and Cook County, Illinois, are similar in size and volume in terms of prosecutions. Cook County, Illinois, has a full public defender's office. In 2010, they spent over $65 million for that office. In Harris County in 2010, we didn't have a public defender at that point. We spent about $26 million, about a $30 million difference. So where am I going to come to pay for a full program like that in Harris County, given our budget constraints?
Well, it was a pilot program, a 4-year pilot program that we put together. And at first, I was against it. I said, we can't. Where are we going to get these new lawyers? Because everybody told me that we're going to have all these lawyers come in and they're going to be great. Well, it's going to be the same lawyers
and that's what's
that
true.
We have.
That is now proven to be true, by the way.
Correct. And so...
Except we're paying more. Except we're paying more than we used to.
We're paid more?
We're paying more than we used to.
Okay.
For the same product.
Well, all right. Well, so we had defense attorneys come in. We all talked about it. We fashioned what we thought would be fair for everybody. And then put it on a 4-year pilot program. Got a $4.3 million grant from Austin that paid for total the first year.
No, and that was taxpayer money, too.
Well, I understand that, Gary.
Okay.
But it was money that was going to go to taxpayer money that was going to go to someone else, and we got it in Harris County.
So what about the $30 million to go to that full program?
I'll get there. It's a pilot program, and it was set up so that, and it was argued to me, which made good sense. Every day as a judge, you give somebody a fair hearing. You let them see if it works. It works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So in 4 years, if this doesn't work, then the judges have the power to get rid of it. And I will say this.
Then we don't have to worry about the $30 million.
Okay.
Is that your answer? Get rid of it and not a problem.
I think he says we don't necessarily know where they're going to need it.
And I mean, to just say $30 million, I don't know that's necessarily accurate. So,
Judge Lykos.
Yes, sir.
Chronicle has an analysis recently that says that since 2006 through September of 2011, there have been 361 police shootings presented by the DA's office to grand juries, 0 indictments. Now,
that's
the targets, well, that's the Chronicle's numbers, 361 to 0.
No.
Now, if you are the DA presenting that evidence, SAU, Chuck Rosenthal before you, against a possible target that's working for a police agency, shouldn't your office, given these numbers, 361 to 0, be disqualified now from presenting evidence on police shootings to grand juries?
No, and that's why I don't seek the endorsement of police unions, because it gives the appearance of a conflict of interest and impropriety. And incidentally, when you were talking about police organizations, you were talking about police unions. Any of the policies that we've implemented, not a single sheriff, not a single chief of police has disagreed with us or asked us to change our policy. And to go back to the trace policy, Judge Anderson was there when I made the presentation. That's where you make the decision, where people can disagree with you, they can make suggestions, and so forth. So I believe I have answered your question with respect to you can't have these ties, you can't ask for these endorsements because it does present a conflict of interest.
I had a question.
So we have...
So that means you should be disqualified from presenting
no,
police
sir,
shootings.
I don't seek those endorsements. I don't seek them. What I'm telling you is we present these to grand juries, and indeed there have been indictments.
I do have a question for both of you, and we're getting toward the end. A couple of years ago in Texas, we had adopted judicial bypass for abortions. It was allowed to go to judges to make sure parents don't get permission, and obviously I understand there's some confidentiality involved. I'm not asking for names, dates, or anything else. I'm just interested, did either of you ever grant a judicial bypass?
No.
I am pro-life, Gary. Always have been, always will be. I believe life starts at conception. I'm against Roe versus Wade, and I follow the law. And the law says, and I disagree with Judge Lykos, you can't even discuss whether you have ever performed a hearing on this. So it's very clear in the law, and I'm going to follow the law.
Okay, I respect
Judge Lykos, why are you letting 6 DAs, assistant DAs, run for judge in November against an opposition party? Why are you allowing that to happen?
I wish I could say, no, you cannot run. There's a federal court decision. There's nothing I can do to stop them from running. I do not like the idea that any prosecutor can run against an incumbent judge. And I certainly haven't encouraged anybody to do that. I've made my feelings known.
Does that violate the Johnny Holmes rule, Mr. Anderson?
What Johnny Holmes rule?
Right. That he won't allow such things?
That's not, no. And let me just say this. they have a right to run. I think you have some people from that office that want to go somewhere else. They've lost in the neighborhood of 100 seasoned prosecutors, over 20 chiefs, and there's certainly attrition. There's no doubt about that. But these folks, I think, are trying to help undo what happened in 2008. Okay? We are still suffering from that. Y'all go to the courts every day.
All right, Pat, you got 10 seconds.
I've got the statistics
She
here
likes 2008.
Attrition.
on turnover. And again, Judge Anderson has misrepresented my record. I can point to
And you know what? That will be on our wrap-up that we discussed that. Thank you for being here, Judge Lykos.
But I guess the executive summary
Mike
is
Anderson.
attrition's similar to what it always is.
Appreciate you being here, too, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we invite you to visit
Do I
our
get
home
10
online at
seconds?
HoustonPBS.org.
If you hang around
Click
for
on
the
the
after
local
show.
program bar, red, white, and blue. Read about our guests, watch the shows, along with our follow-up discussion. And until next time, get informed and get active.